we are continuing our series that we started at Killer Nashville, Writers Talking About Writing. We asked a lot of our interviewees the same questions, and it's very interesting how different the answers were.
We have a great lineup today. We have Tim Maleeny, Gay Yellen, and Tilia Klebenov Jacobs.
So enjoy.
Hi, I'm Tim Maleeny. I'm a mystery author. My latest is a book called Hanging the Devil, and it is a art heist that takes place in San Francisco and Hong Kong.
And Tim,
I heard it won something, Tim.
It did. I have a little hardware. The book just won the Silver Falchion Award here at Killer Nashville for Best Action Adventure Novel. So pretty excited about that.
So what was the worst writing advice that you ever got?
I don't know if it's the worst writing advice I ever got, but when I first started writing fiction, I went to a conference like this, and there was a lot of debate about being a plotter or a pantser. In other words, do you outline or do you just write organically and make things up as you go along? Or are you telling yourself a story? And there was a great compulsion and even a push to be an outliner, to really have everything laid out. And I realized the hard way, my brain does not work that way. I have to be telling myself a story. I think of an opening incident, and then you're just writing and seeing where it goes. Sometimes there's detours, sometimes there's dead ends, there's almost always detours. But if you're surprised, then the reader's more likely to be surprised. So it took me a couple of years to figure out that's the kind of writer I am, till I really found my groove and knew what I was doing. So you definitely, when you get into this, I'd encourage you to come to conferences like this, like Killer Nashville, because it's a chance to talk to other writers and figure out what works for them and ultimately what works for you.
So what was the most surprising thing that ever happened to you, was said to you as a writer?
Most surprising thing that ever happened to me that was a lovely experience is I went to one book signing for one of my novels, and there were 3 generations in the same family who had read it. So the grandmother, the mom, and the daughter had all read the book and loved the book, and that was incredibly meaningful. And you know, if you write a book and you put it out there, if one person reads it and they have the same experience that you've wanted to have as a reader, or the kind of feeling you get when you read a book that you love, that's reason enough to write a book. So that was fantastic. Surprising, in my first novel, I had a couple of things about San Francisco and Chinatown that, for the purposes of the story, I made up. And one had to do with a corrupt mayoral candidate, and another had to do with certain hidden parts of the city. I found out after the book was published, both of those things turned out to be true. There was a guy in town that one character was loosely based on who got arrested for some of the things I mentioned in the book. And this underground system around the city that I invented turned out to be true as well, which made me want to write about things like world peace and other stuff, but that didn't work out. I couldn't actually shape the future. I just got lucky imagining some things that turned out to be real.
And what are you working on now?
I'm working on another novel. It has a slight art angle. It takes place in Europe and also San Francisco, but it also gets into some other issues. It's another action adventure with comedic elements novel. And the tentative title is Chasing the Angel, but that'll probably change 10 times by the time I'm done with the manuscript.
What would be your best advice to someone who wants to be a writer?
Write the stories down. There's nothing scarier sometimes than the blank page, but put yourself out there, just tell yourself stories. Real writing is editing, learning how to get out of your own way and just work it. And I must rewrite the openings of my books 40, 50 times. So getting it out on the page is what you have to do. And the more you can do that, the more you'll be a writer and a successful writer.
Great. And
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Gay Yellen. I write the Samantha Newman mysteries, The Body Next Door, The Body Business, and The Body in the News. So far, 3 books in the series.
So Gay,
Yes.
what was the worst advice that you ever got as a writer?
The worst advice I ever got was actually from my first publisher, who told me they really liked that first book, but I needed to end it on a cliffhanger. And I was so afraid that people would say, "Oh my God, what happens next?" but I've only gotten a couple of complaints. Most people really love it and can't wait to read the next. So I guess it wasn't the worst advice after all.
So, what was the most surprising thing that ever happened or was said to you as a writer?
I was really caught off guard when someone said they loved my books, but they needed to know how much money I made off of them. And I was just flabbergasted, and then finally I said, enough.
So, what are you working on now?
Now I'm working on, actually I just finished the third book, came out just a couple of months ago, and I'm looking to start the fourth book. I'm writing a children's book and researching a historical fiction.
And what would be your best advice for someone who wants to be a writer?
I would say write and read. Definitely read in whatever genre you're writing. Read, and then when you finish your first draft, find a writer's group, a critique group. That helped me immensely. It helped me find my first publisher. It helped me hone my writing.
Great. Thank you so
Great,
much.
thanks.
Well, thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Tilia Klebenov Jacobs. I mainly write crime fiction, and my newest book, Stealing Time, is coming out this November.
So, what was the worst writing advice that you ever got?
There is so much terrible writing advice out there. The worst I ever heard, which actually was not directed to me, was don't write that book you want to, wait till you become a good writer first. So many problems with this, not the least of which is nobody walks out of the shadows, hands you a medal, and says, congratulations, you're now a good enough writer to write the book you want to write.
What was the most surprising thing that ever happened to you, was said to you as a writer?
I think one of the most surprising was an email I got from somebody who had read my first book, which is a hostage drama, and I wrote to the person because she'd given it a review and I was asking her to post it on Amazon and Goodreads. And she said, sure, happy to. And by the way, as a former kidnapped victim myself, I have never seen this subject treated with so much humanity and delicacy, which blew me away.
Wow.
Made me cry, actually.
Yeah, I can see that.
What are you working on now, and where did you get the idea?
So my book that is coming out in November is called Stealing Time. I wrote it with a partner. His name is Norman Bernbach. And so he suggested the whole plot. It is a time travel jewelry heist that is set mainly in Manhattan in March 1980.
And finally, what would be your best writing advice to someone who thinks they want to be a writer?
For someone who wants to be a writer, I would say the single best thing you can do is surround yourself with a community of writers. These are the people who will have your back, who will understand what is going on when a lot of other people won't, and who will support you in ways that you can't even anticipate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Guys.